The Korean words sliced through the chatter at the dinner party like a knife I wasn't meant to understand. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story connects with you, make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is something special. My husband Daniel's voice carried smoothly across our penthouse terrace, confident in his native tongue. She's completely useless. What does she even do all day? I kept my gaze on the Seoul skyline, the Namsan Tower glowing orange in the dusk, my wineglass steady. To everyone here, I was Emma Park, Daniel's American wife, the polite foreigner who smiled through conversations she couldn't follow, the woman who'd given up her marketing career to support his rise at Nextcore Industries. None of them knew I understood every word. Junho, a younger colleague from product development, at least looked uneasy. Hyung, isn't that a bit harsh? Daniel laughed, that deep voice that had once charmed me in a Stanford cafe 5 years ago. What? It's true. American women are all like that. Can't work, just spend money. The group chuckled awkwardly. 7 men in tailored suits, sipping my Johnny Walker Blue, standing on marble I'd imported, surrounded by art I'd chosen. To them, I was decoration, Daniel's trophy wife. I turned with my well-practiced, polite smile. Daniel, could you translate? I feel left out. My tone carried just enough helpless sweetness to make them comfortable. Just work talk, babe, he replied in English, indulgent. Nothing you'd find interesting. I'm sure I wouldn't understand anyway, I said lightly, letting out a small laugh as they relaxed. That's my girl. Daniel crossed to me, pressing a kiss on my forehead that felt more like a stamp of ownership. Why don't you check on the catering? Dismissed in my own home, I smiled and touched his chest. The $8,000 Ermenegildo Zegna suit he wore had been charged to his corporate card, client entertainment attire, according to the expense report. One of many I'd quietly noted. As I walked to the kitchen, their voices rose again in Korean, faster now. Why bring her to Korea? She's useless here. My father told me to marry for the American market expansion. Having a white wife looks good. I paused behind the frosted glass partition, perfectly placed to hear. Would have been better if she were a CEO's daughter. True, but her face is decent enough. Their casual cruelty didn't shock me. I'd long learned that people reveal their true selves when they think you can't understand them. They didn't know I'd spent 2 years in Seoul after college, living in a tiny goshewon, eating convenience store kimbap, learning Korean, and studying the tech business culture firsthand. The startup incubator they mentioned? I had founded it. Sold it 3 years later for $40 million. That money became the seed for my venture capital firm, the firm that now held controlling interest in Nextcore Industries, where Daniel had just been promoted to senior VP. The same company he thought had rejected me in an interview last month, an interview that was actually his quarterly performance review. He'd presented to me, not knowing the woman evaluating his numbers was his wife. Emma. The caterer's voice broke my thoughts. Desserts are ready. Give me 10 minutes, I replied, then added in Korean. Please make sure security records everything they're saying in Korean. Her eyes widened slightly. I'd hired this company for a reason. Its owner was a former colleague who knew exactly who I was. Nai algesumnida hojanim. Yes, understood, Chairwoman. In the corporate world, I was Emma Chen, E. Chen, the elusive investor behind several major Asian tech funds. My name never appeared in the press, hidden behind holding companies and shell structures. When I'd met Daniel at Stanford, he was finishing his MBA. I'd introduced myself as a marketing specialist recently laid off, looking for direction. It wasn't a total lie. I'd done marketing at my first startup before becoming CEO. But I'd learned my lesson from a past relationship, a man who'd fallen in love with my balance sheet, not me. So with Daniel, I'd been careful. I drove a beat-up Honda Civic, rented a small apartment, talked about job hunting and student loans. He was charming, generous, eager to play the successful MBA helping his struggling girlfriend. 6 months later, he proposed on a Monterey beach. The ring was modest, his words sincere. I'd said yes, hoping I'd finally found someone real. The prenup had been his idea, to protect us both, he said. I'd signed it easily. None of my real assets were in my name anyway. The apartment, the cars, the art, all owned through corporate entities. We'd married in Napa, surrounded by smiling families. His parents polite but distant, mine pleased by his ambition. The cracks appeared 3 months later. I came home from what he thought was a failed interview to find him on the phone. "She didn't get it," he said in Korean. Another rejection. I don't know how long I can pretend to be supportive. American women are so fragile. I'd stood silently, face composed, pretending not to understand as he switched from irritation to sympathy the moment he saw me. "Hey, sweetie, tough day?" That night, I made my decision. Document everything, learn who he really was, and when the time came, act. That was 2 years ago. 2 years of playing the unemployed wife while secretly running a $900 million investment empire from my home office. 2 years of approving every promotion he thought he earned. 2 years of hearing him mock me in Korean, unaware I understood. 2 years of building an airtight case. "Emma!" Daniel's voice called from the terrace. "Can you bring more ice?" I grabbed the bucket, my smile automatic. As I returned, I caught the end of a conversation. "Tomorrow's board meeting. They're announcing restructuring. About 5 people getting cut." I set the ice down steady. Tomorrow's board meeting, the one I would attend in person, not via video. The one where Daniel would present his report, the one where everything would shift. "Thanks, babe." Daniel didn't look at me. "This is Minho, our new CFO. Minho, my wife, Emma." Minho, sharp-eyed and polite, smiled. "Pleasure to meet you. Daniel talks about you often." "All good things, I hope," I replied smoothly. "Of course." His eyes flicked to Daniel. "He says you're very supportive of his career." "I try to be," I said warmly, "though I don't really understand much about his work. Tech is so complicated." "Daniel mentioned your job hunting," Minho said. "What field?" "Marketing, mostly, but it's tough right now. I might take some classes, reinvent myself." "Good for you," he said kindly, if dismissively. "It's important to keep busy." Keep busy, as if I hadn't spent my morning on a video call with Samsung Ventures discussing a partnership worth hundreds of millions. As if my small tech trends blog weren't actually a front for the in-depth market analyses I sold to Fortune 500 companies for 6 figures each. "Daniel, can I steal you for a moment?" Yuno asked, his tone serious. "We need to go over tomorrow's presentation." "Sure." Daniel turned to me. "Babe, go ahead and eat. Don't wait up. This might take a while." Dismissed again, I smiled, nodded, and returned to the kitchen. Through the glass, I watched them on the terrace. Their voices low, Daniel's posture tight. He was nervous about tomorrow's board meeting, and he should be. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Lisa, my executive assistant and one of the few who knew my dual identity. "Presentation finalized. Board confirmed. Legal ready." "You sure about the timing?" "Tomorrow," I replied. "It's time." Her response was instant. "Daniel's going to lose his mind. That's the idea." I slipped the phone away and began tidying the kitchen, maintaining the role of the supportive housewife. Outside, Daniel and his colleagues spoke in hushed, anxious tones about the restructuring, hoping their positions were secure. None of them knew it was my plan, the result of 6 months of audits, evaluations, and strategy sessions. The 5 positions being cut weren't random. They were chosen carefully to improve efficiency and deliver a clear message. Daniel's name was on my list, but not for termination. I had something far more instructive planned. The party wound down around 11. I thanked the guests, smiling through their patronizing compliments, and Daniel's dismissive remarks. Once the last person left, Daniel loosened his tie and poured another drink. "What a night! Did you see Minho's face when I mentioned the Johnson account? He knows I'm being lined up for VP of Asia Pacific. Another 2 years and I'll be in the C-suite." "That's great, honey," I said, collecting glasses. "You've worked so hard." "Yeah, well, someone in this marriage has to be ambitious." The words were casual, but the tone wasn't. "By the way, how was your interview this week?" There had been no interview, only a strategy session with NextCore's board about Q4 operations and leadership changes. "They said they'd let me know," I replied evenly. "Emma," he sighed, rubbing his temple. "I support you, but maybe it's time to be realistic. Tech is tough. Maybe consider other options. Teaching English online. Maybe." His tone was so condescending, I nearly laughed. "Maybe you're right," I said instead. "Sometimes I just feel useless." He pulled me into a half-hearted hug. "You're not useless. You manage the house. You support my career. That's important too." Important too, as if I existed only as an accessory to his life. "I know," I said softly, leaning into him, noting the Tom Ford cologne, $400 a bottle, Another corporate charge I'd already logged. I'm lucky to have someone as successful as you. We're lucky to have each other. He let go, already reaching for his phone. Big day tomorrow. I need to review my presentation. Of course, I'll finish cleaning up. He disappeared into his study, his so-called office. He didn't know my real one was 3 blocks away, under a company name he'd never heard. The craft room he thought I spent my days in was just a set piece, a laptop with staged search history, fake rejection letters, and props for my cover story. As I cleaned, I mentally reviewed tomorrow's schedule. The board meeting began at 10. Daniel's presentation was at 11. My reveal, noon. I debated whether to expose the truth earlier, but strategy demanded patience. Let him enjoy his moment of pride before I removed the ground beneath him. My phone buzzed again, a message from my mother. "Dinner this weekend? Your father wants to talk." I smiled. My parents had known everything from the beginning. My father, an economist, had understood immediately. My mother, a psychologist, had warned me, playing with emotions is dangerous, even if they deserve it. I'm not playing games, I'd told her. It's an experiment. I want to know if he loves me, or the idea of me. 2 years later, I had my answer. Sunday works, I'll have news to share. I texted back. I headed to my craft room. The laptop's home screen looked ordinary, but a coded keystroke revealed my true workspace. 3 monitors filled with data, portfolios, and correspondence from the companies I controlled. Lisa's final schedule appeared on screen. 9:30 a.m., arrive at Nextcore HQ through executive entrance. 9:45 a.m., brief meeting with the board chairman. 10 a.m., board meeting begins. 11 a.m., Daniel Park presents Q4 report. 11:45 a.m., restructuring announcement. 12 p.m., introduction of new oversight structure. 12:15 p.m., my identity revealed. 12:30 p.m., private meetings with affected executives. Affected executives, such a polite phrase for what awaited them. I opened my files, Daniel's expense reports full of creative charges, emails hinting at confidential leaks, trading patterns suspiciously aligned with company announcements. Nothing illegal, but enough to raise questions. Then there were the internal issues, his remarks to women, his patronizing tone, his habit of taking credit for others' work, every instance documented and verified. My secure line rang, "Lisa." "Any second thoughts?" she asked, calm as ever. "None. Good. I've been waiting for this. The way he treats you." "He treats me how I've allowed him to," I interrupted. "That's what bothers me most." "You've been strategic, not complicit," she said firmly. "You've gathered facts, built leverage, and positioned yourself for decisive action. That's not passivity, it's power." Maybe she was right. Maybe this was what marriage turned into when trust gave way to calculation. "How's he been tonight?" she asked. Typical, mocking me in Korean, dismissing me in English, playing the successful husband burdened by an inadequate wife. Tomorrow he learns the truth. And the company too? Yes, I've decided to reveal everything publicly. No more anonymity. "Are you sure?" she asked. "You'll lose your privacy." "I've hidden long enough," I said. "It's time for real leadership. Visible, accountable, and unexpected." "All right," she said. "I'll alert PR. This will make waves." "Good, it's time." We reviewed logistics and contingencies. By the time we ended the call, it was past midnight. Daniel's study light was still on. I heard him speaking rapidly in Korean, likely to his father, celebrating his supposed success. I stood quietly in the doorway, watching him gesture as he spoke, confident and unaware. This was Daniel in his element, ambitious, self-assured, and completely oblivious to how close he stood to the edge. Tomorrow marked the culmination of everything. The Asia-Pacific VP role was within reach, or at least that's what Daniel believed. I listened as he detailed his 5-year plan. VP in months, a seat in the executive suite in 2 years, and possibly CEO within 5. He'd used his marriage to an American woman to appear internationally minded. Soon he planned to leverage his unburdened focus on work. Unburdened, meaning without a wife who couldn't keep up. The implication was clear. Was he planning to leave me? The realization didn't sting. It only confirmed what I already suspected. "Just leave her," he said to someone on the phone. "If she wants to go back to America, I'll give her a settlement and she'll go quietly." He was already calculating how much it would cost to make me disappear. The prenup meant I'd walk away with almost nothing. The irony was striking. He believed I brought nothing to the marriage, never realizing how completely he'd misjudged me. I stepped back before he saw me and returned to my study, the so-called fake office. Tomorrow, Daniel would deliver his quarterly report, talking about growth, vision and innovation. He'd impress the board members he recognized, never realizing the one he didn't see held the real power. Then I'd stand, introduce myself, and watch his composure fracture with the same measured calm he'd once shown, while watching me fade into obscurity. But first, I had work to finish. I opened a blank document and began typing my message to Nexcore Industries Board of Directors. Tomorrow I will attend the board meeting in person for the first time. As you know, I have kept my identity private to prioritize strategic decision-making. However, recent circumstances demand transparency. What follows is a comprehensive evaluation of the senior leadership team's performance over the last 2 years, with a focus on ethics and alignment with company values. I worked until 3 a.m., finalizing the accompanying presentation. It wasn't solely about Daniel. His case was only the spark. It was about Nexcore's broader culture, one that rewarded internal politics over performance, where certain executives thrived by manipulating systems. My anonymity had allowed inefficiencies and misconduct to grow unchecked. Tomorrow wasn't about personal revenge. It was about accountability. When I finally shut down the computer, Daniel was asleep, occupying his side of the bed as though it belonged entirely to him. I slipped in quietly, staying within the invisible boundary between us. We'd shared a space for years, but lived in different worlds. The difference was, only I had realized it. My last thought before sleep was of the boardroom. Daniel poised and confident, me composed and ready. When our eyes met, he'd finally understand. I smiled into the dark. Tomorrow ended the game. Tomorrow, truth replaced pretense. Tomorrow, Daniel Park would discover who he had truly married and what that would cost him. At 6, I woke without an alarm. Daniel was still asleep, his phone lighting up with messages he'd check the moment he opened his eyes. I showered in the guest bathroom, following the routine we'd both long since separated. I dressed in the outfit I'd prepared weeks earlier, a slate grey Phoebe faux suit, structured, refined, and commanding. Louboutin heels added 3 inches, and I kept jewellery minimal, only my wedding ring and the watch my father gave me after my first company sale. My hair was sleek, makeup professional. The reflection staring back wasn't Emma Park, the overlooked wife. It was E. Chen, investor and strategist. When I entered the kitchen, Daniel was already dressed in his Tom Ford suit, scrolling through his phone. He looked up briefly. A flicker of surprise, or maybe approval, crossed his face. "Wow, what's the occasion?" "Lunch with an old colleague," I said easily. "Someone from California working in Seoul now. Thought I'd dress up." "Looks good," he replied, already focused on his phone again. "I'm heading in early. Big day." "Good luck with your presentation." "Thanks, though luck doesn't factor into it. It's all preparation." He flashed that confident grin I'd once found charming. I poured coffee from the pot he'd made. "When will you be home?" "Late, probably. After the board meeting, there'll be restructuring talks. Could take a while. I'll leave dinner in the fridge." He kissed my cheek absently and left. I listened as the elevator carried him away, leaving the apartment silent. My apartment, purchased with my company's funds. I stood there for a moment, letting anticipation settle. Today was the day. I finished my coffee slowly, watching the sunrise spread over Seoul. Millions of people beginning their day, unaware that a single meeting in Nexcore's boardroom would shake one man's world to its core. At 8:30, Lisa texted, "Car is downstairs, ready when you are." I picked up my briefcase, not the small clutch Daniel assumed I carried, but a full-sized leather case holding 2 years of documentation, and went down. The black Mercedes at the curb was discreet and professional. "Good morning." "Miss Chen," the driver said. "Good morning, Park," I replied. Former military, perfectly discreet and personally vetted. "Nexcore headquarters, please." We moved through Seoul traffic as I reviewed my notes. The presentation was backed up in 3 locations, my arguments memorized, my evidence organized. My phone buzzed, a message from Robert Chang, the board chairman. "Looking forward to finally meeting in person. This should be quite a day," I replied. Indeed, he wrote back. Nexcore's glass and steel tower rose over Gangnam, a monument to ambition. We entered through the private executive garage. Lisa was waiting when the elevator opened, polished and composed. "Good morning, Miss Chen," she said formally. "The board is gathering in the anteroom. Chairman Chang would like a word before we start." "Thank you, Lisa." As we walked, she added quietly, "There's been a development. Daniel requested a private meeting with the board before his presentation. He plans to discuss his promotion." "Of course he does," I said with a faint smile. "And the chairman's response? That all personnel matters will be discussed after the restructuring announcement." "Perfect." We entered the chairman's office. Robert Chang stood to greet me, bowing slightly, a gesture of respect that would have puzzled Daniel. "Miss Chen," he said warmly, "it's an honor to finally meet in person." "The honor is mine, Chairman Chang. Thank you for your patience with my unconventional approach." "Unconventional, yes, but effective," he said with a wry smile. "Still, today's meeting will cause disruption. Are you certain about this?" "Completely." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Your husband will be shocked." "Chairman Chang, my husband has spent 2 years ridiculing me in Korea and assuming I couldn't understand. He's called me useless, a burden, and even planned his exit. Whatever shock he experiences today is the result of his own actions." Chang nodded slowly. "Very well. The board stands behind you. Shall we begin?" We entered the main boardroom. 15 members rose as I walked in, not for Emma Park, but for Yi Chen, the architect of their success. I took my seat at the head of the table, Chang beside me. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady and commanding. "Before we start, I'd like to address what's about to happen. For years, I've kept my identity private to focus on strategy. Today that changes. Today you'll meet my husband." A murmur spread through the room. Few had known I was married, fewer still knew to whom. "My husband is Daniel Park, Senior Vice President of Operations. He doesn't know I am Yi Chen, the principal investor behind Nextcore. He believes I'm an unemployed marketing specialist, rejected by this very company." The room fell silent. I had their full attention now. Over the past 2 years, I have recorded multiple issues within senior leadership, including ethical violations, misuse of company resources, and cultural problems that emerged during my absence as a visible leader. Today's restructuring is the first step toward resolving those issues, and today's disclosure is the second. "Miss Chen," said Sarah Kim, one of the board members, leaning forward with concern, "are you sure combining personal and professional matters is wise?" "Miss Kim, I understand your concern," I replied evenly. "But this isn't about revenge, it's about accountability." I opened my presentation on the main screen. What you're about to see demonstrates a pattern of behavior that has impacted not only me personally, but also our company's culture. My husband is simply one example. I clicked through the slides, expense reports, internal emails, HR complaints, not just Daniel's, though his appeared frequently, but evidence of a broader issue. Senior executives had exploited loopholes, fostered toxic environments, and prioritized their personal ambitions over Nextcore's mission. "This ends today," I said. "Today we implement restructuring, establish new oversight systems, and I step into the visible leadership role this company has long needed." The room was silent until Chairman Chang spoke. "The board supports you, Miss Chen, unanimously." The members nodded, not out of obligation but genuine agreement. I'd chosen them carefully, leaders who valued ethics as much as profit. "Thank you," I said, glancing at my watch. "Daniel's presentation begins in 45 minutes. Let him proceed as planned. Afterward, we'll move on to restructuring and introductions." The meeting began as usual: financial summaries, performance updates, and strategic reports. At precisely 11, the door opened. Daniel entered, flanked by Yoonho and Minho, carrying his presentation materials, confident as ever. He didn't even glance at me. Why would he? To him, I was just another board member in a neutral suit, sitting quietly among others. "Mr. Park," said Chairman Chang, "please begin." Daniel presented smoothly: quarterly growth, expansion strategies, market forecasts. His English was polished, his tone assured. He was good at this, persuasive, polished, and completely unaware of what was coming. "Thank you, Mr. Park," said Chang. "We'll discuss your recommendations later. Please take a seat." Daniel sat down, no doubt expecting his promotion to be announced. Instead, Chang turned to me. "Miss Chen, would you present the restructuring proposal?" Every eye shifted to me. Daniel looked over, polite but detached. Yoonho looked mildly interested, Minho expressionless. I stood, walked to the front and opened my presentation. Good morning, I began. For those who don't yet know me, I'm Yi Chen, primary investor and controlling shareholder of Nextcore Industries. The air seemed to drop 10 degrees. I watched Daniel's expression shift, from confusion to disbelief, then the slow realization of what I'd just said. Emma? His voice cracked. What are you doing here? Working, I replied calmly. The same thing I've been doing every day for the past 2 years while you believed I wasn't employable. The room went silent. 15 board members watched as Daniel's world fell apart. I smiled faintly. Now let's proceed with restructuring. Daniel sat frozen, his face shifting rapidly. Shock, disbelief, confusion, fear, and finally anger. Emma, he said sharply. What is this? Some kind of joke? No joke, Mr. Park, said Chairman Chang firmly. Miss Chen is indeed our primary investor and has been since Nextcore's inception. I saw Daniel's eyes dart around the room, looking for anyone to contradict what he'd just heard. How long? He whispered. How long have I been Yi Chen? I asked, pulling up the next slide. 12 years. How long have I held controlling interest in Nextcore? 6. How long have I known you were mocking me in Korean? I paused. Since our second date. His colour drained. What do you mean? He stammered. I switched to fluent Korean. You thought I didn't understand when you insulted me for years. Junho made a faint sound. Minho went still. Everyone who spoke Korean now understood the full scope of it. The interview I supposedly failed here last month, I continued, switching back to English, was actually my executive review. You presented to me, you just didn't know it. Daniel shot to his feet, his chair scraping. This is fraud, deception. You lied to me for years. I told you the truth, I said evenly. Emma Chen worked in marketing with an entrepreneurial background. Every word was accurate. You're the one who made assumptions about what that meant. You let me believe. I let you reveal who you truly are, I said, my tone hardening. And you did, very clearly. I quoted his own words from the night before. She's useless. American women are all like that. Can't work, just spend money. He flinched visibly. Shall I continue? I have 2 years of recordings. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Kim took notes. Chang's face remained composed, though his eyes tightened slightly. You were spying on me, Daniel snapped. Recording private conversations? Yes, I replied. And now we return to restructuring. I displayed a chart of expense irregularities. Daniel's name appeared repeatedly alongside others. Personal costs filed as business expenses, luxury dinners labelled as client meetings, designer goods billed to corporate cards. The next slide showed suspicious stock trades timed around confidential announcements. Someone has been leaking internal information for profit, I said. Daniel's complexion darkened. You can't prove. I can, I said simply. 2 years of verified documentation reviewed by forensic accountants and legal counsel. Nothing criminal, perhaps, but deeply unethical. This is a witch hunt, he shouted. She's doing this because of our marriage, Mr. Park, said Chang sharply. The board has reviewed the findings. This is about conduct, not your relationship. Sarah Kim added, We've also confirmed multiple complaints from subordinates, particularly women, regarding inappropriate remarks made in Korean, comments you assumed wouldn't be understood. Yoonho kept his eyes on the table. Minho's expression didn't change, but I could see calculation behind it. The restructuring plan, I continued, removes 5 senior positions effective immediately. Those affected will receive contractual severance. We're also introducing stricter oversight, ethics training, enhanced audits, and a revised code of conduct. Who's being terminated? Daniel demanded. I revealed the list. His name was first. His reaction was a sound somewhere between a gasp and a growl. This is personal revenge, he spat. Abuse of power. I'll sue. Go to the media. You'll do nothing, I said evenly. If you make this public, I'll release everything, recordings, reports and correspondence. Your career will end overnight. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you, I said. I'm outlining reality. You have 2 options. Accept the severance, sign the NDA and leave quietly, or refuse and face a full investigation. Daniel trembled with fury, surrounded by silent colleagues. I felt almost sorry for him, almost. The offer is generous, said Chang, a year's salary, extended benefits and a neutral reference, but it requires your signature by end of day. Daniel turned to me. I want to speak to my wife, alone, I considered, then nodded. 5 minutes. The boardroom cleared, leaving us alone across the long table, an appropriate distance for what we'd become. "Why?" he asked, voice cracking. "If you had all this, why marry me? Why let me humiliate you?" "I married you because I wanted to believe someone could love me for who I was," I said quietly. "And I let you humiliate me because I needed to see the truth." "The truth?" he said bitterly. "That you're a liar and a manipulator?" "No," I said. "That you loved the idea of me, a convenient American wife who made you look international, someone you could control to feel powerful. You never cared who I actually was." "You never told me," he snapped. "You never asked," I replied, my tone steady but sharp. "Not once in 5 years did you ask about my goals or what I'd built before you. You decided who I was, and I let you because I needed to see how far your arrogance would go." He shook his head. "You're sick." "Normal partners don't mock their spouses in languages they think they can't understand," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "Normal partners don't plan divorces behind their backs or call their wives stupid to their colleagues. You revealed exactly who you are, Daniel. Every insult, every dismissal, every quiet cruelty, I simply gave you the space to show yourself." He stared at me for a long moment before asking quietly, "Did you ever love me?" The question hit with unexpected weight. I thought about the man I'd met at Stanford, his charm, confidence, and ambition, and the early moments that felt genuine. "I loved who I thought you were," I said finally, before I realized it was all an act. "An act?" He laughed bitterly. "You're calling me the actor. You've been pretending for 2 years." "I played the part you wrote for me," I replied evenly. "I just played it better than you realized." I checked my watch. "Your 5 minutes are up. The board is waiting for your decision." He hesitated. "What about you? What happens to you now?" "I keep running my company. I lead openly. I stop hiding who I am to make others comfortable." I turned toward the door. "And I file for divorce." "Wait, the prenup protects your assets, not mine. You'll get nothing from me, just as you gave me nothing that mattered." I opened the door. The board members waited outside with Lisa and 2 lawyers. "Mr. Park will need an hour to review the severance offer," I told them. "Meanwhile, let's continue with the restructuring." Daniel walked past without a word, shoulders stiff. I felt no satisfaction, no regret, only closure. The meeting continued efficiently. The other 4 executives were called in one by one. Some protested, others accepted quietly. Eventually, all signed the NDAs. By 3 p.m., 5 offices were being cleared. HR was sending internal announcements, and I was standing in what would now be my permanent office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. "Miss Chen," Lisa said, entering with her tablet, "the press release is ready. We're announcing you as CEO and primary investor, effective immediately." I skimmed the draft. It was professional and factual, with no mention of personal matters. "Perfect. Send it." "There will be media attention," she warned. "Questions about why you stayed anonymous, speculation about the timing." "Let them speculate," I said. "I'll give one interview to a credible outlet to explain my leadership vision. After that, we focus on work." Lisa nodded. "Daniel signed the severance an hour ago." "He's left the building." His lawyer asked about a settlement. I referred him to the prenup. I nodded back. It was over. 5 years of marriage, 2 years of documentation, 1 decisive day. A message from my mother appeared. "We saw the news. Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "Better than fine," I replied. Another message followed from an unknown number. "You destroyed my life. Daniel." I blocked it without hesitation. There was nothing left to say. Over the next week, the story spread through business media. Mysterious investor E. Chen revealed as Emma Chen, new CEO of Nextcore Industries. The coverage was consistent, a successful investor stepping into public leadership. A few outlets noted my marriage to Daniel and the timing of his departure, calling it coincidental. I let that stand. One journalist from the Financial Times got an interview. We met in a small cafe in Gangnam. "Why reveal yourself now?" she asked. "Because anonymity was useful while building my portfolio. It allowed me to focus on performance, not perception. But Nextcore has outgrown the shadows. It needs visible leadership." "And your husband's termination?" "My personal life and business decisions are separate. The restructuring was based on performance and ethics. The timing was coincidental." She looked skeptical, but had no proof otherwise. "What's next for Nextcore?" "We're refocusing on innovation over politics," I said. Too many companies reward connections instead of contribution. That ends here. The article ran the following week. Balanced, professional. I came across as calm, capable, and strategic. The brief mention of my separation sparked gossip, but no facts. Ideal. 6 weeks later, as I reviewed Q1 projections, I saw tangible improvement. Morale was higher, toxic leaders were gone, and new oversight policies were running smoothly. Lisa entered. "Your 3 o'clock is here." A young woman walked in, early 20s, modest suit, nervous but determined. "Miss Chen, thank you for seeing me. I'm Jiwon Park. I applied for the junior analyst position." "Please, sit," I said. She explained her background. Good grades, solid experience, ambitious goals. What stood out was her resolve. "Why next court?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Because of the changes you're making. I've worked where politics mattered more than performance. I want to be somewhere different." I studied her and saw my younger self. "Can I be honest? Please." This industry will underestimate you constantly. They'll interrupt, dismiss, and claim your ideas. It won't stop, but that doesn't mean you can't succeed. Be strategic, document everything, build alliances, know your worth, and sometimes let them underestimate you. Their assumptions are your advantage. Her eyes brightened. "You're hired," I said. "Your salary will be 15% above industry standard. You'll also join our new women's leadership program." Tears welled up. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," I smiled, "because if you do, I'll fire you. Performance matters here, nothing else." After she left, I looked out over the city. Somewhere Daniel was likely rebuilding. I didn't wish him ill or anything at all. A message arrived from my lawyer. Final papers signed. Divorce complete. I felt nothing except closure. That evening, I met my parents for dinner in Hongdae. My father greeted me with a hug. "How are you, sweetheart?" "Good, really good," I said, and meant it. Over dinner, I told them everything. My mother listened closely. My father asked sharp business questions. "I'm proud of you," Mom said finally. "Not for revenge, but for showing the world who you really are." Dad nodded. "Hiding your light serves no one." "It served a purpose," I said. "I learned what I needed about people, trust, and myself." "And now?" Mom asked. "Now, I lead openly. I show women like Jiwan that success doesn't require silence or compromise." "You're mentoring," Mom said softly. "That's how change begins." Later that night, I returned to my quiet apartment, my space again. I'd redecorated, removing everything that didn't reflect me. I poured a glass of wine and watched Seoul's skyline. My phone buzzed with a message from Junho, one of Daniel's colleagues. "I'm sorry. I should have spoken up." I replied, "Apology accepted. Do better going forward." He responded, "I will. Thank you for the chance." I blocked the number, not out of anger, but completion. 3 months later, I stood on stage before 800 women at a tech conference, no longer hiding. "I spent years letting people underestimate me," I began, sometimes intentionally, sometimes out of fear. I watched others take credit for my work and dismiss my expertise. For a long time, I thought that was the cost of success. Stay small, stay quiet, don't draw attention. The room was silent, but here's what I've learned. Shrinking yourself doesn't protect you or make success easier. It only makes you smaller, and the world doesn't need smaller women. It needs women who take up space, own their expertise, and never apologize for success. I paused, looking across the auditorium. My advice is this: if being underestimated helps your strategy, let it happen. But always document your work, build your network, and know your worth. Never believe their definition of you. Your value isn't measured by their approval, but by your results. The applause was overwhelming. Afterward, countless women approached me to share their stories, challenges, and achievements. I listened, offered guidance where I could, and felt something I hadn't in years: purpose. This was why I'd stepped into the light. Not for revenge, but for connection, for every woman still fighting to be seen, heard, and valued. 6 months after the board meeting, a letter arrived through my lawyer. It was handwritten, screened for threats, and signed by Daniel. "Emma, I've had time to think about what happened, about what I did and who I became. There's no excuse, but I need you to know that I understand now. You were right. I never asked about your goals or saw you as a full person, only as an accessory to my ambitions. I told myself I was a good husband, but I wasn't. I needed to feel powerful by keeping you small. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But you were right and I was wrong. I hope Nextcore thrives under your leadership and that you find someone who truly sees you. Daniel. I read the letter twice, then filed it away, not discarded but stored with other remnants of that chapter. Acknowledged, processed, closed. Did it change anything? Not really, but maybe acknowledgement was worth something. Not much, yet still something. That night, I had dinner with Jiwan and 3 women from the leadership program I'd started. We talked about their projects, setbacks and progress. They were sharp, driven, and fully themselves. No pretense, no shrinking. Thank you for this program, one said, for seeing us. Thank you for letting me, I replied. You're changing this company and this industry. As I walked home, I thought about the past 5 years, the secrecy, the documentation, the revelations. Would I do it differently? Maybe, but I didn't regret the outcome. Daniel had revealed his character, yes, but I had discovered my own. Not the woman hidden behind aliases and tests, but someone visible, strong, and wholly herself. My phone buzzed, a message from Lisa. Tomorrow's board meeting agenda is ready. Also, Samsung called. They'd like to discuss a partnership. I smiled. Tomorrow meant more work, more challenges, and more chances to lead with authenticity. The lights of Seoul spread before me, countless stories unfolding in the night. Mine was one of them, but it was finally mine. A year later, Nextcore reported record profits. The restructuring worked, and the culture had truly changed. We hired 300 new employees, launched 2 groundbreaking products, and entered new markets. At the annual company meeting, I stood before 2,000 employees and shared our 5-year vision. No longer hidden or anonymous, just present, accountable, and real. Afterward, a young man approached nervously. Miss Chen, my sister attended your keynote last year. She applied here because of what you said. She starts next week. What's her name? I asked. Sarah Kim, Engineering Division. I'll look forward to meeting her, I said, and meant it. That evening, as the sun set over Seoul, I sat in my office with a journal I'd started keeping. On the first page, things I've learned. I added a new entry. Authenticity isn't comfortable or safe, but it's the only way to live fully. For years, I hid out of fear of being used, hurt, or diminished. Yet by hiding, I diminished myself more than anyone else could. Daniel had been a catalyst, not the cause. He showed me what I already knew. Hiding doesn't protect you. People reveal themselves when given the chance. And love built on deception, even strategic, isn't real love. But the real revelation wasn't about him. It was about me. About stepping into my strength, leading openly, and refusing to shrink. I didn't regret testing Daniel. I regretted testing myself through hiding. I wasted 2 years playing a role when I could have been living authentically all along. No more hiding, no more tests. Just truth, visible and unfiltered. That was the real victory. Not in ending Daniel's career, but in building my own life, openly and without fear. I closed the journal and looked out at the city. Tomorrow brought meetings with investors, team sessions, and lunch with the leadership cohort. Real, meaningful work I could fully claim. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. Is this Emma Chen? I nearly deleted it, but replied, This is E. Chen. Who's asking? This is Michael Chen. I think we might be related. I'm researching our family tree and found your name linked to my grandfather. I smiled, life continuing, new connections forming. Tell me more, I typed. And somewhere in Seoul, in an apartment I no longer owned, or maybe a new one, Daniel Park was living his own story, learning his own lessons, or not. That no longer mattered. I had my own life to lead, visible, authentic, and fully mine. The end. Up next, 2 more stories are waiting for you. If this one resonated, you won't want to miss them. Click to watch, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future uploads.